We each pick a dark horse to make the 2025 college football playoff. You're not going to want to miss this. What is up, everybody? Thank you guys for joining us on the Thursday edition of Locker Room Talk. And while the college basketball season has ended, it is now past us. Congrats to the Florida Gators on winning the national championship. It's never too early to talk about college football because in reality, there is no offseason, and hopefully it's going to be here before we know it. But where we want to start is a couple of dark horses that we each have to make the college football playoff. Now, when you look around at the odds, guys, you really can just only find odds on teams to win the national championship right now. But if the odds are high enough to win the Natty, you know they're going to be decently high to make the college football playoff. So we wanted to pick a couple of quote-unquote dark horses, at least how we define it. And I want to start with one of mine, and that's Oklahoma. Because to me, when I'm looking, the recipe, in my opinion, for a team to have a chance to not just win a national championship, but put themselves in a position to be able to play for a national championship, it's three things. Obviously, quarterback is number one. I have the offensive line and the defensive line, a combination of that, so the line of scrimmage number two, and then schedule. Because to me, if you're a team that's not going to win your conference championship and get that automatic bye into the college football playoff, kind of like we saw with Arizona State last year, then you're going to have to get to at least 10 wins, I think, in your regular season, like we saw with Tennessee. There's other examples. So when you put those three things together, I fall on Oklahoma right now. I know last year, there's a lot of pressure on Brent Venables. He's taken over the defensive play calling this year. It didn't go exactly how they wanted it to. And everybody will talk about Johnny Mateer and Arbuckle coming from Washington State, and I'm going to get to that. But when you look at the line of scrimmage for Oklahoma, and I want to start on the defensive side of the ball, you did lose some guys overall in that defense, Stutzman, McCullough. There's some pretty big names that they lost, but they returned some damn good players, and they made some good moves in the portal. But just on the defensive line, you look at R. Mason Thomas, a guy that's one of the best defensive linemen in the country. The Jackson kid, who had a good freshman year. I think he's going to have an even better year going into his sophomore campaign. But you got Marvin Jones Jr. from the transfer portal. And that's not it. I mean, they got some other guys on the periphery, especially on the inside, that I think can do some damage. But this Oklahoma defensive line, mixed with the linebackers that they are returning, and even though they lost some of those guys that I mentioned, there's some talented players that are coming back. I'm a little bit worried about corner right now defensively, but the defensive line is solid. The offensive line can't get much worse than last year. I mean, you do return three guys. I believe Oklahoma will be able to turn that offensive line around. But then you look at the quarterback that has come in Johnny Mateer, who I think was the number one quarterback in the transfer portal, mixed with Ben Arbuckle, the new offensive coordinator who came with Johnny Mateer from Washington State. So there's no learning curve, Cone. I mean, again, you played for two different head coaches at Michigan. Just for a second, can you talk about the terminology jump that typically comes with you making a transfer move? But he's not going to have to, because it's going to be running the same offense. It's everybody else that has to catch up. And just can you kind of talk about that transition?
Yeah, well,
personal experience?
From my personal experience, I couldn't have played for two offenses that were more different from one another. I mean, we go from Lloyd Carr and Scott Loeffler's offense, which is speed break Detroit, right side 300 box, Y stick H through a 54X slush, and that's one play. And we may spend 6 hours just installing that single play to ram go. And again, not that I'm not trying to look down on the offense that Rich Rodriguez was running, but he was trying to gain an advantage in other areas. We were talking about this with Connor Stallions. You're trying to gain an advantage by going really, really fast. We can't have a paragraph-long play call and go really, really fast. We're trying to, be better conditioned and go up tempo to be able to beat teams. So that was my personal experience. I'm glad that I was able to have that because, you get to be able to learn multiple offenses. But in this particular case, I think that it is huge that this kid's not going to have to learn all new terminology, all new signals. And that's something I'm going to talk about too with the team that I break down.
Yeah, and Blaine, I got a couple highlights here of Johnny Mateer. And when you watch him, the reason I had him as the number one quarterback in the portal is not only just his versatility as a passer, but his running ability. And the offense that you're going to see this year from Oklahoma, there's going to be some similarities to what you saw last year with Jackson Arnold and what Luttrell was doing in the RPO game. I think Washington State does it better. But the true design quarterback run game as well is something else that I think is going to be a weapon. And Mateer is a very underrated runner. He's a heavier runner than what I think people understand, and he's a more talented runner with the ball in his hands, even when the play breaks down, like I'm about to show you right here. But Blaine, just from a wide receiver standpoint, when you have a quarterback that has the ability on the RPO to make the right decision, to be able to get you the ball, spit it out when he has to, but take off and run, that obviously helps put you in a better position out wide. And they got Deion Burks coming back.
Yeah,
too.
I know. And it just keeps all the doors open. And you not only have to be a talented receiver, but you have to be a smart receiver, right? When you have a guy like this, if he does break the pocket, what am I supposed to do as a receiver? He's coming to me, right? Am I taking off? Am I going across? The thing about it when it comes to Oklahoma, John Mateer is a great quarterback. I agree with you. He was the number one quarterback in the portal. But talent only takes you so far. I'm interested to see, one, can you protect him? Right, that was Oklahoma's huge thing last year. Can you protect this guy? Obviously, being able to run and have that dual threat ability is going to be huge, and you just can't beat yourself. I thought he did a great job last year from a turnover standpoint. We can talk about the Washington State quarterbacks that keep hitting the portal, and they're phenomenal. But I'm interested, and a lot of it comes down to schedule. I mean, right now, if you're looking at Oklahoma,
I'm going to get to that.
You're out of conference is not the easiest. Shout out to David Cohn and the Michigan boys. You're going to have to play them. But I'm interested to see how Brent handles this team this year, because this has to be the year for them.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go ahead and play two clips for you, and they're different. This first one is a pass that Mateer decides to take down and run against a Washington defense that we know is talented. He ain't playing against William and Mary. Let's go ahead and play this first clip. You can see Mateer reading it. He's going to escape up through the pocket, which is the most dangerous way to escape, makes two guys miss, and goes and scores a touchdown. So from a defensive standpoint, I know that at any point in time he can take off, not just on the quarterback design runs, not just on the RPO, but when the play breaks down. But then his ability to make every throw, Dave. I mean, this to me, against a playoff team, against a Boise State team that we know made the playoff last year, watch this throw off of this action. Let's go ahead and play this clip on the blue turf, on the road, in a big moment in the fourth quarter here. So you're going to get that little token fake. He's going to put it on the upside shoulder here, just
nice ball.
Absolute dot. He's got great feel as a thrower, which is something that you can't really coach it. You can't really, you can try and work on it and improve guys, but he has that natural accuracy. And then the last part of the recipe, Cone, is the schedule. And I get what Blaine is saying. So to me, in my eyes, if I'm going to say, okay, I don't think Oklahoma's going to win the SEC, if they're going to make the college football playoff, you're probably going to have to win 10 games. You're probably going to have to go 10-2 because Bama didn't make it at 9-3. So when I look at the toughest games on the schedule, starting with the non-conference, really the only tough non-conference game you have is Michigan at home. Early in the year, where they may be starting a true freshman, as good as Bryce Underwood is, we know that Sharon Moore played there as well. I think that is a very winnable game for Oklahoma. I actually think Michigan's going to be a lot better later in the year than they are earlier in the year. And I know we're going to talk about that.
Let's not get in the business of doubting Kent State. Right.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get in the business of down Kent. So you look at the SEC schedule. I look at the road, because if you're gonna make the playoff, you got to take care of your home games. All right, you get Auburn at home early in the year, which is a very winnable game to me. You get Ole Miss at home. The three road games, you got at Bama, at Tennessee, and at South Carolina. Woo! Three teams we know that are going to be talented. But I don't think there's a better time to play at Bama than right now after Jalen Milroe has left. We'll see what happens at the quarterback position with Ty Simpson and Austin Mack and the Russell kid as well. Tennessee, we think is going to be really good. South Carolina, I know we're going to get to that in a second. And then you have Texas neutral site. These are the four games that I have marked that if you can go 3-1 in these four, I think Oklahoma gets to 10-2 and makes the playoff. Texas, going to be starting a new quarterback as well. We know they're talented, but they did lose some pieces on defense. And we know that rivalry, you never know who's going to win that game. And that's where I really think getting Johnny Mateer and Arbuckle and that line of scrimmage that I mentioned could get Oklahoma in the playoff.
Yeah, so a couple things. One, I like your three criteria of quarterback play, up front play on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and then the schedule, and I do want to talk a little bit more about the schedule. A fourth one to me is program stability, and we talked for 2 years about who would adjust to the SEC quicker, Texas or Oklahoma, and a lot of Oklahoma fans, I think, sort of took offense that we all said, well, Texas, because Steve Sarkisian at Texas was able to take those lumps in his first couple years while they were still in the Big 12. Now I think we're able, and look, the way that it turned out, 6-7 for Oklahoma in year one, Texas plays in the SEC championship game. Now we're in a position where, hey, Brent Venables, now's the time, and he can build off this. You had some success in the transfer portal, got the number one quarterback like you're talking about. So I think the program stability, it's just hard in this transfer portal and NIL era for a coach in year one to come in and just have success with all of the moving pieces. as far as the schedule, the Michigan game, a couple cool things about that. With it being week 2, Sharon Moore, having played there, that's his alma mater. And like you said, I think they're going to start Bryce Underwood at quarterback week 1 unless something unforeseeable happens or there's an injury of some sort. But that's why it's even more important that they retained Wink Martindale at defensive coordinator. Yeah. And when you say like, okay, well, look at the job that defense did late in the year in 2024, and they're not going to have 3 potential first-round picks, Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, Will Johnson. Well, those guys didn't play against Alabama in the bowl game when Jalen Milroe and the whole crew was playing, and a couple of them didn't even play against the Buckeyes when Michigan was able to win that game. That's why Wink Martindale remaining there is huge, especially if Michigan's going to start a freshman quarterback. And then this 5-game stretch to me, Texas and Red River, at South Carolina, Ole Miss at home, and then back-to-back at Tennessee and at Alabama. Yep. And like you said, you got to go 10-2. I mean, we talked about this all year in the offseason last year with the first 12-team edition of the college football playoff, and we saw it come to fruition. 9-3 just doesn't get you in this conference. Maybe Clemson can win the ACC and get in at 9-3, but you got to at least think 10-2 because you don't want to be sitting there heartbroken the way that Ole Miss and South Carolina were. So what are the 2 losses on this schedule?
See, that's why, again, you bring up that stretch, and to me, and always, you brought up the Ole Miss game at home. That one's even tougher just because it's sandwiched in between those others. But, when I'm looking at an SEC team, I can pretty much find a stretch for every SEC team where you're like, damn, this is going to suck. True. We know some teams will be as good, some teams will be worse than what we think. I tell you what's crazy to me, though, Cone, is when I look at these 4 games, the ones that you mentioned and I mentioned, at Bama, at Tennessee, at South Carolina, and Texas and Red River, the 2 teams that I think are the scariest are at Tennessee and at South Carolina. Like, typically, you'd be like, no way, going to Alabama and then having to play Texas, you'd be like, those would be the 2 big dogs. I mean, you look at what Tennessee returns, you look at what South Carolina returns. I know we're going to get to them in a second. I actually think at Tennessee and at South Carolina are a little bit tougher than at Bama and then Texas and Red River this year. But again, at the end of the day, some teams are going to be better than what we thought. Some teams are going to be worse. I just like the way this Oklahoma team is put together through the transfer portal, what they bring on the line of scrimmage, and then that you have to have it factor. Brent Venables has to have it this year after showing progress, then falling back. All the stars, I think, are kind of aligning. People are going to be sleeping on Oklahoma. They're not going to pick Oklahoma to make the college football playoff. They're not going to pick them. I think people are going to be sleeping on them.
Like most of the people, when they do this, are picking Oklahoma to be a dark horse.
Again, I haven't. To be honest with you, I really haven't looked it up what other people were saying. I've been saying this since. I talked with Teddy Lehman and them on the ref a couple months ago. I picked Oklahoma. We all did to struggle last year. I think this year they break through. And if we're going to go dark horse, I mean, you're looking at what? Plus 4,500 plus to make the playoffs somewhere.
That Missouri game's not going to be easy. And
it's not, but I mean, Missouri lost a lot too.
Finished with LSU.
So
you're taking Oklahoma to make the college football playoff.
I think Oklahoma makes the college football playoff.
How about you?
This might sound no, I'm not.
I will take them to be more improved. And
I agree.
And what's their win total? Do we know what their win total projection is?
I would guess
right
it
now?
would be 8.5. That's what I would guess.
Okay. So really, I was going to say I'll take them to overperform their win total, but not make the college football playoff. But to do that, you'd really have to be right at 9-3.
Yeah. Their win total for the season's at 6.5.
It's at 6.5.
If it's at 6.5, I'm taking over on the win total, but not make the college football playoff.
I can respect that.
All right. If no one will object, I will take the South Carolina Gamecocks as my dark horse to make the college football playoff. Now, perhaps Shane Beamer has got South Carolina in a position where they are no longer a dark horse, and people will scoff when they hear this and say, no, this is the year with a returning quarterback they're supposed to make the college football playoff. I've never seen South Carolina make a college football playoff, so in my opinion, they are still a dark horse, and I'm going to take them. Let's just talk about a few things here. Recapping 2024, 9-4, had some huge wins, right? Had some tough losses, losing to LSU the way they did, losing to Alabama. They come back on the road in Tuscaloosa. They lose that game, but then they finish the year by beating Clemson. Lenora Sellers really showed the star power, the star potential, but had some key injuries, which you're going to have when you have a quarterback who takes this many risks in the run game. To address not making the college football playoff, I know South Carolina fans thought they had moved in a position where, hey, we're playing the hottest football right now at the end of the year, but you lost to 2 other teams who also got left out, and that was Alabama and that was Ole Miss.
Well, if you're trying to be the good-looking dark horse this year during beach season, you need our friends over at Fitbod, because we've all been there, endlessly scrolling through fitness influencers, selling complicated routines that promise the world but deliver very little. Because the truth is, most of these tips and tricks, They just overcomplicate what should be simple. And that's where Fitbod comes in, combining the workout planning and tracking you actually need to stay consistent and make real progress. That's what makes Fitbod special. And it also builds workouts around your specific situation. It's customized. The app crafts routines based on your unique fitness journey, your available equipment, and even factors in your recovery time between sessions. Also, their smart technology ensures each workout hits the sweet spot, which is challenging enough to drive great results without pushing you to burn out. Plus, with over 1,000 demonstration videos, you'll never wonder if you're doing an exercise correctly. It's like having a trainer who really knows you, pushing you enough to make progress without burning out. We know this personally, it's a fantastic product, and you need to level up your workout by joining Fitbod today to get your personalized workout plan. Get 25% off your subscription or try the app free for 7 days at fitbod.me/booster. That's fitbod.me/booster.
I want to talk about Lenore Sellers. I have a couple clips here. I think if he meets people's expectations, not just with the way he was playing last year, but takes that jump, which you would assume for a guy who's 6'5", 240, is going to be a sophomore now, and is going to be playing under Mike Shula now as the offensive coordinator, but who was on staff last year. If you're going to have a new OC, you want him to have been on staff last year. Then I think that the ceiling and the floor for the South Carolina program is going to be predicated on just how much Lenore Sellers can take that next step and really be a superstar. Can we start with the play against LSU, please? This is obviously what he can do in the run game. We saw him do this at multiple points last year. Power read up the middle, and he's gone, and then no one's going to catch him.
Lenore Sellers huge. He's basically Reptar.
6'5", 240, unless he's put on weight. I don't know.
Who knows?
And if he's dropped any weight, then he's only gotten faster. You know, so we'll see all of that after spring practice and moving into fall camp. But it's not just in the ground game. I want you guys to watch this throw right here. Please play this. This is against Texas A&M, and this is when Texas A&M is a top 10 team. Look at this this little tight end delay coming from the field, someone right in his face. Just a beautiful ball. So that's what Lenore Sellers is able to provide on at the quarterback position.
Are you worried at all from a defensive standpoint?
Oh, yeah, I'll get in. I'm going to get into the whole interior and all that. But is there anything you want to say about Lenore Sellers first?
You know, David, it's funny. Like I talk about John Mateer, I know how good John Mateer is. Johnny Mateer is a really good player. I don't know how elite Lenore Sellers can be is because his ceiling is so high.
Yeah.
And that's not a, I don't know if Lenore Sellers is going to be elite. Lenore Sellers checks every single box for me. Don't forget how young this guy is too. But from a physical standpoint, you know, it's funny. We look at guys like Joe Milton and we're like, he's huge, he's physically talented, not a great runner, right? Not that he couldn't run, but not a great runner. Lenore Sellers is a great runner. Didn't have a lot of touch and a nuance as a passer. He can throw the 100-mile-per-hour fastball and also throw the 12-6 curve at quarterback. And I know that's a baseball reference. I think he can make every throw. David, I feel like he is so good. We always talk about, well, you know, football is the ultimate team sport, and it is. But sometimes there are guys that can go out there and they're so physically talented, they can make up for a lot of deficiencies that you have as a team. I'm not saying Lenore Sellers is Cam Newton. Okay, I'm not going to go that far.
But he has a lot of similarities.
But when I look at the physical makeup and ability as a thrower of this guy, he could be one of the best that we've seen do it in a long, long time. And I know you're going to talk about the guys on the periphery, but he's not the only physical freak that South Carolina's got running around.
And Shane does a great job of doing what they need to do with Lenore Sellers.
And again, talking about program stability, Shane Beamer's been there, right? He's taken his lumps. They've had some losing seasons. You were able to build off that, overperform expectations last year at 9-4, almost getting to the college football playoff, fall just short. What will 2025 look like? You're talking about freak shows. Let's go ahead and talk about Dylan Stewart at defensive end. The number 2 returning player in college football behind wide receiver Jeremiah Smith. Let's just show 1 sack, and this is against the team you were talking about, Jake, in Oklahoma.
I mean, this dude is a freak show, dude.
I mean, he's as good as it gets. He could play in the NFL this next season, to be honest.
To me, he's the Lenore Sellers of defense.
True, and they got both of them.
Yeah, and they got Nicholas Harbor, too, who's could go run track for the United States Olympic team as a huge guy. South Carolina stays with one on the edge, though.
Absolutely. Think about it. The only thing I'm worried about is, like, last year as a unit, South Carolina's defense was a lot better.
Kennard was a beast.
Yeah, Kennard. You had 2 linebackers who were absolute dogs, seniors. A safety who's an absolute dog, senior. And now that's gone. Dylan's an absolute savage. We know that. As long as he keeps the gun away after he makes a sack, it's going to be fine. but they lost a lot on that defense.
Yeah, and that sort of gets me into the negative. And it's not just that side of the ball. South Carolina is losing a lot in the interior on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Center and both guards on offense. And then, like you were talking about, defensive tackle, 2 linebackers. You lose almost from every single depth on defense. Now, they have addressed that in the transfer portal. They've gone to the transfer portal for the offensive line, like we talked about. Shane Beamer's on record as saying we want to open up competition with that unit. And then specifically on defense, 3 additions right here. Defensive tackle Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy from Texas A&M. Linebacker Sean Murphy comes in from Florida State. And then defensive end Jalen Brown coming in from Missouri. Also, on the offensive side, they lose Rocket Sanders at running back, but they brought in the Faison kid who rushed for 1,100 yards at Utah State. So they're going to have several backs who I think can help fill that role.
And you got to remember, Rocket Sanders had 13 more carries than Lenore Sellers last year.
Yeah. Well, see,
which is insane.
But you bring up a good point. What was the one knock on Lenoris last year? He was getting beat up. Like, he was getting hurt. I mean, go back to the LSU game. And I'm not saying he's soft or anything, but how much, if you're Shane Beamer, do you look at that and say, man, if we're going to do what we're capable of doing or what we want to do at the highest level, how much do you run Lenoris Sellers? We talked about this last year with Nico at Tennessee. Like, are you just saving him to run against the best teams that you play? I mean,
I don't think you can do it. I just don't think South Carolina is going to be good enough at every single position to operate like that, which that brings me to the Cam Newton discussion. When I watched Cam Newton play in 2010 for Auburn, there was never a thought about him doing anything but dominating that play. There was never a thought about, oh, should we take him out in the fourth quarter? Should we not run him here? It was like every single time he touched the football, he is about to dominate the defense in front of him. And he could have gotten injured, sure, but he stayed healthy that entire year. He wins the Heisman Trophy. Auburn wins the national championship. That's the kind of stuff you need if South Carolina is going to overperform expectations.
It's like with Cam, there was never that build-up year, right? There wasn't that year like the North has. He'd come in, you see how high the ceiling could be. But
well, at JUCO, if you watch him in JUCO.
For sure.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying.
Right. There wasn't that year. It's like, God, this guy's going to be absolutely unbelievable. And you walk in the next year, it's like, hey, we know how good and talented
he would just sort of
but
drop.
Should we protect him?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he just landed on earth. He just landed in Auburn, got a football in his hands, and went off.
It's funny you say that because he played against Statesboro in high school the year after I had graduated.
Lucky.
So my brother called me. I was already at Michigan. My brother called me and said, yeah, we got put out in the playoffs. They had this quarterback who's going to Florida, Cam Newton. He's really good.
Yeah.
So
And
we
your
had
brother was not
we already knew what was up. But
No doubt. How does their schedule look?
yeah, that's what I want to get to. So here's the schedule. Aflac kickoff game to open the year against Virginia Tech in Atlanta.
Winnable. Very
All right?
winnable.
South Carolina State, Vanderbilt at home, at Missouri, Kentucky at home. Again, we have to operate under the assumption that 10-2 is what's got to get you in the college football playoff. To me, you got to win all those.
I
all right?
agree.
Here's where we start. At LSU, Oklahoma at home, Alabama at home, on the road at Ole Miss, on the road at Texas A&M. There is a bye week between those two games, though. Coastal Carolina and Clemson back-to-back at home, and that's a Clemson team that's going to return Cade Klubnik, who's pretty much top 5 in Heisman Trophy odds right this second.
Man, I will say, as tough as that game will be with Clemson, you do get it at home, that's big. I feel like that's a pretty favorable SEC schedule if there really is one out there. Not that anyone is going to be super easy, but remember last year we were looking at like Ole Miss's schedule, and we were like, man, we're not saying it's easy, but if we're going to go light and heavy on SEC schedules, I mean, you read the first 3 or 4 games. There's no reason you shouldn't win all those games starting out with what Missouri lost and obviously what we think Kentucky's going to be.
It's just weird to see South Carolina with no Georgia, no Florida, and no Tennessee on the schedule.
And you get Bama at home.
Yes.
God, dude, I feel like that's a good.
No Texas on here either.
That Oklahoma-South Carolina game, something's got to give.
Something's got to give. But again, like just from the South Carolina perspective, I don't know. If you're a South Carolina fan, I don't know how you could be upset with that schedule. Like the way that it's going to play out. I just wonder, I really wonder, Cone and Blaine, like with what happened last year with Bama not getting in and SMU getting in, and Penn State doing to SMU what they did. I wonder if South Carolina is sitting there at 8-3 and Clemson is going to win the ACC, Clemson is a top 5 team in the country, and South Carolina beats them at home to go 9-3 with that schedule. Let's say you lose. What did you say the road games were? You said
all the road games?
yeah, just the toughest ones.
Missouri, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas A&M.
So let's say you lose LSU, A&M, and Ole Miss. I'm not saying they will, but let's say you lose those three and you beat Clemson and you beat Bama at home. I wonder if South Carolina gets in, but you don't want to be in that position.
It'll be circumstantial, depending
it
on
will
what
be.
happens.
You want to sit here and guess what you think their win total is?
I'm going to say 8.
8.5.
7.5.
God, I like the over on that one.
Over.
I like the over on that one. But I would pencil them at Conan. I agree with you. I think South Carolina, a lot of people are going to be picking them to be good this year, but I don't know if they're going to have them making the college football playoff, as like a certainty. But looking at that schedule, man, whew. And by the way, LSU could screw a lot of teams over, at least so far. Like LSU could break a lot of hearts.
It's amazing we're not even talking about LSU. Kind of go.
Oh, we will be. We will be. But I don't consider LSU as a dark. They got to win the damn opening game. And guess who they got this year? Clemson. So good luck. Yeah, good luck.
Where is that one?
That one's at. It's got to be some neutral site, right?
I'll look it up right here.
They may be
because they've been playing it. This one says at Clemson.
It's at Clemson?
Well, hold on. No. Yeah. Well, it doesn't have an asterisk, so.
Like in Clemson,
Hold on,
South
I have
Carolina?
to beat David to find this.
Like that's a big deal. If that's a true road game. So if that is a true road game, then it's got to be a home and home.
It's in Clemson.
Oh, wow.
Which I have respect for. I respect LSU for that.
Put some respect
on his name.
I know they keep getting mad that they keep losing these opening games. I love
in
it.
the regular season.
Huh?
I hate them. With the exception, the Red River rivalry, we can, because the fair.
I just mean
They
opening up
fast.
with great games.
Yeah.
LSU stays opening up with a great game.
They do.
All right, y'all want to hear my team? I can't believe I'm doing this because I've gave this guy a lot of hell. A lot of hell over the years.
Say it.
Who could this be?
Say it.
I'm going with Billy Napier.
No way.
I'm going with
No
Billy Napier.
way.
Are you serious?
He's already in year 8.
No way.
Who
I don't know if I
cares?
can let you do this.
Why not?
Who messaged?
Why not?
Who sent you a Twitter message
not?
that's got you all
Florida wins the
changed
national
up,
championship
yo?
basketball. All of a sudden, blames a Billy
Look
Napier.
at this.
That's crap.
Look at this.
That's crap. All right, let's the 4 big things with me. All right, you bring back who?
DJ.
Mr. Him. What does it have to start? If you're going to make a run anywhere, what does it have to start at?
Quarterback.
The quarterback position, right? You bring back DJ Lagway. Absolute dog. Young kid, he's only going to get better and better. Let's look at that offensive line. You bring back how many starters? 4, right? Jake Slaughter, All-American center.
Yeah.
Where do I want my best player to be when it comes up front?
Center.
I want him to be at center. That's
Some people say tackle, and I get that.
I
but
get that when someone makes
center.
sense. All right, let's go to a little skill position here. Eugene Wilson III, absolute dog. I mean, season-ending injury last year with the hip, precision guy, speed route runner. Him and DJ Lagway, they're right here. They're basically touching tips. All right, then we go to Jaden Ball, at running back. I mean, tell me, I played this guy enough in NCAA football, it makes me sick. It makes me sick. You can't be that big and that fast. We saw what he did against Kentucky last year, like 120 yards on like 8 carries. This kid's going to be an absolute freak. The only thing I am somewhat worried about is the defensive side. And if you go look at that, you do have Caleb Banks returning. He's going to be pretty good. Tyreek Sapp, both on the edge, who's going to be good players. Do you have enough depth on the defensive line? And when it comes to schedule, Florida, who cares? I mean, who cares? The last 2 years has been detrimental. So what are you afraid of at this point? You played the Avengers, then the Globonauts. I mean, I'm pretty sure you fought Star Trek somewhere in the solar system last year. So if you're Florida, you're not afraid of anybody. You're not. You had the kid at quarterback, the king. He's basically that kid from Dune. All right? I'm just saying, if you have the pieces, it starts up front, your defensive line going to be okay. Your linebacker room's not great, but I do trust your secondary. If Eugene Wilson can be Eugene Wilson, Jaden Ball can be Jaden Ball, and DJ Lagway can take you to the promised land, you're going to kill Florida State. They're still going to suck. All right? Maybe 4 wins this year. We can get that. That'll be another time. But I'm going with Billy and the boys as my dark horse this year to maybe make a run. You can hate on it.
We've gone from fire Billy Napier, worst decision ever, to now they're going to make the college football playoff with you.
But the coaching level of the years has changed. What do we say, 3 years? 3 years is usually what it takes to turn a program around. What year's Billy in?
You're saying exactly what I said. This is amazing.
How?
This is amazing. We sat here on this set last year.
You didn't know.
I was bullet. We were both, I think, had Florida at what? 7, 8 wins, and people thought we were nuts.
Yeah.
And all you talked about was how shitty Billy was. That's all you did was how bad Billy was. So now he just didn't have enough time? That's
No.
what it was. But okay,
No,
listen.
that's not what I'm
glad
saying.
you're seeing it my way now.
That's
I knew
not
you'd
what I'm
eventually
saying.
see
That's
it my
not what
way.
I'm saying.
I knew you'd eventually see it my way. But here's the problem.
You didn't know DJ Lagway was going to DJ Lagway. Did you know that?
He was the number one quarterback in his class.
I picked him to
He
win
wasn't even the
8
starter.
games. I picked him to win. Okay. Graham Mertz. Okay, we talked about Graham Mertz, about how we thought he was underrated. You know, he didn't have, I know, the injury and stuff like that. Lagway is a better player than what Graham Mertz is. Just God gave him more ability. Let's just be honest. And I am so glad you finally come over to this side on.
This is
But
not.
no.
Okay, go
Don't minimize it.
Go ahead.
Don't minimize it.
Go ahead.
But here's the problem. Yeah, I'm bullish on Florida being good again. And you're right. Florida should not be afraid of their schedule. But just because you're not afraid of something doesn't mean that Freddy Krueger doesn't still kill you in your dreams. Okay? I think Florida could win 7, 8 games again. Maybe even 9. But let's go through their schedule. You can't sit here and say, you know what? I think Florida's a dark horse to make the playoff. The defensive line's going to be okay. The linebackers aren't going to be good. The linebackers aren't going to be very good, but they're going to be good in the secondary. I'm going to go ahead and tell you something. It don't matter how good you are in the secondary if you're not good in the front seven.
The man who changed it all was DJ Lagway. That's the man who changed it all. Before we did this last season, we weren't talking about who? DJ Lagway.
You weren't talking about him.
You weren't talking about him. You weren't talking about him. Hell, Billy Napier wasn't talking about him. We were talking about Graham Mertz, Graham this, Graham Cracker, whatever. That's who we were talking about.
Yeah.
And DJ Lagway stepped on that campus, and now everything has changed. Sometimes that happens.
Can we go through the schedule?
Gene Chizik, a squirrel finds a nut every now and then. That's what Billy, great recruiting job, but DJ Lagway changed the narrative for Florida.
Okay, I'm just glad you're over on this side.
Stop doing that.
No, I'm not.
Stop doing that.
Now, if anybody has watched this show before, they know exactly.
Also, it's still Florida. They should have good players on both sides of the ball.
I agree.
Always.
I agree.
Always.
That's why it's crazy to me the first 3 years were a disaster.
Florida.
Well, it's like, can Walter Clayton Jr.
That's what I was just going to say. Is Walter Clayton Jr. playing in the slot this year or what?
Yeah, let's go through their schedule real quick.
All right, let's go. Long Island to start off.
It'll be 63.
It's not about ice.
I'm just glad they caught that serial killer.
All right, you got South Florida at home, week 2. You're at LSU. Then you go to Miami to see if Carson Beck's car is still there.
You go to.
Then you got Texas at home. At Texas A&M. Mississippi State at home.
Okay.
Georgia at home. At Kentucky. At Ole Miss. Tennessee at home. Then you go play Florida State.
That one's at home too.
That's at That's at home.
You think they can win 10? Tell me the 10.
Can you get in with 9?
Tell me that's
Can you get in with 9?
Okay, I respect it though.
Let's be honest here. All right, we're thinking 2-0. South Florida, Long Island. Right.
Yep.
At LSU, winnable football game. At Miami.
I mean, they're going to show up and play.
I get it. I get it. Can we not be a dick right now?
Okay, I'm just saying.
Can David stop doing what his hands?
I'm vibing with. I'm sitting here listening. I'm trying to get you to sell me on it. I want to believe.
I'm trying to sell Miami. Like, defense is atrocious. All right, Carson Beck. Do we really know? Is it revenge?
That's not okay. They'll win Miami. Let's get on down here.
Keep going.
Texas. We'll see. I mean,
we'll see.
I'm not as high on Texas.
All right. At A&M, going to be a tough out.
That's a tough one.
Mississippi State at home, winnable game.
Come here.
Georgia at home. That's going to be tough, but I still think Georgia still they're going to be good. But Georgia from skill position, I mean, we'll still see. At Kentucky, winnable game. At Ole Miss, Austin Simmons at quarterback.
We'll see. A lot of changes.
Offensive line hasn't looked great. All right. Tennessee, which Nico are we going to get? All right.
Is that Tennessee game at home?
At home. Okay. Then you end the year of Florida State at home.
I'm not saying it's impossible.
If DJ balls, it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. It's not nearly as impossible as what we thought.
But what you need is you need Arch Manning to struggle at Texas and them to underperform. You need Georgia to struggle more than they have, right? Like maybe Gunnar Stockton isn't the guy, or maybe they have some quarterback issues.
Texas.
This really deals with quarterback issues at other schools. Marcel Reed at Texas A&M maybe struggles, or Texas A&M has taken a step back. Maybe you can get them on the road. That's how. And then Tennessee at home, even if Nico's really, really good, you do get them at home. Tennessee, Florida is always a grudge match, right? Like that's what you need.
Let's talk Long Island. Okay, I'm just kidding.
That would be 63-0, man.
Yeah, that'll be an absolute murder.
Great.
All right. Very interesting. Okay, so all 3 of ours from the SEC. People say, "Oh, well, you just brought up SEC teams." I'm gonna give you one more, kind of quickly. I'm looking at Louisville right now. Okay,
Sculpting.
Brom. Miller Moss comes over from USC, who I think's pretty damn good football player. I know we've talked about Lincoln Riley and USC and all that. What I like about Louisville, number one, is the schedule. All right, you get Clemson at home. We know the ACC hasn't exactly been, the rough and the rugged here lately. I expect that to maintain. You get Clemson at home, you go to Miami, and you go to SMU. Those are your three. I think you can win 2 out of those 3 games or have a legitimate chance to do that. We'll see about Miami. You do get Kentucky at home. And outside of that, look, I got respect for Narduzzi and Pitt. Okay, I've got respect for Virginia Tech. But when I look at the way this Louisville team is built, you bring in Miller Moss. You have one of the best combinations at running back in the country. You lost your left side of the line, but you did a good job replacing it in the portal. You brought Pounders over from Mississippi State. The defense, corner worries me a little bit, but I think on the defensive line, I know they lost the Gillette kid, but they do return some production. I thought they did a really, really good job. They brought in Lubin through the transfer portal at linebacker, who's a really good player. I look at this Louisville team. I think it's a lot of bang for their buck. I think Miller Moss fits what Brom wants to do offensively to an absolute T. I like what they have at wide receiver as well. I just look at the schedule. Louisville, I think, could win the ACC or put themselves in a position. Guys, Clemson got the bye last year after winning the ACC, going, 9-3? Losing to South Carolina in their last regular season game. I think Louisville could be this year's Clemson. Even though I really like Clemson, I really like Cade Klubnik and what they have going on. Watch out for Louisville as far as a dark horse to make, because they were scary last year, too.
Especially if Miller Moss can come in and play the style of football that he was, when he was really cooking before he got benched at USC. And USC was dealing with all sorts of issues. But then also defensive coordinator Ron English, who I played for at Michigan. I'm a big fan of Ron English. If he can get that defense back to the 2023 edition, the way that they were really flying around, then I do think Louisville could be a problem. Yeah, I was going to take Illinois. Maybe we should just do a part 2 of this, though.
Let's just do a
Maybe we should do a dark horse college football playoff team part 2, and I'll talk about Illinois then.
The dark horse.
I was going to throw them Texas Tech Raiders out there.
Part 2 could be fun.
Yeah, a stable of dark
class?
horses. We can do a part 2, especially if part 1 does well, which I think it will do well. And if you share it, it's going to do well. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. And again, when they give you that survey at the end, make sure you hit satisfactory or whatever they say. Let us know too in the comments, who is your dark horse this year? And give us some reasons why. We appreciate you joining us here on Locker Room Talk.